every supporter will feel differently about a loss. There's no doubt about that. And every supporter will feel different about certain periods of the game. I suppose I want to start this review with the 5 minutes that remaining in that third quarter. From my point of view, my anxiety levels at that point had gone through the roof. Before that, it was just, a lot of sort of intensity as a supporter and really willing the boys on to do really well. But for some reason, when it hit that point when we were 27 points up, and I looked at the clock and I think there was about 24 or 5 minute mark. And when I watched the replay, there was 5 minutes remaining on the clock. I was just shit the bed myself as a supporter. The doubts crept in that we wouldn't hold on to this lead. And I don't follow soccer a lot, but I often hear that being 2-0 up in a soccer game just before half-time or just after half-time against quality opposition is not, it's a good place to be, but not the greatest place to be. And that's the way I felt, I wasn't anxious about our forward half. I thought it's the best we've looked inside our forward 50 for a long, long time. We looked like we'd score every time we went in there. I was not concerned at all about the Doggies' defence. I knew it's their Achilles heel, and it was playing out that way. And I certainly wasn't overly concerned, although Norton and Bruce are always a threat. I wasn't concerned too much about their forward half because at ground level they didn't have a lot of threats. And I just thought Wiedering and Jones were doing a particularly good job, although Bruce did get on the end of a few. So I was just holding up really well. It was all, for me, that anxiety was all about this midfield. And I just knew, I didn't know, but I just felt that, I don't know, my anxiety level just went right through. It felt like it just went right through our playing group in that period of time. And I don't think the Dogs were playing poorly either. I don't think, and I don't even necessarily think that they even lifted as much in that final 5 minutes. It didn't seem that way when I was watching the replay of that third quarter. I put myself through that third quarter. It was the only quarter I wanted to watch because I want to watch that last 5 minutes. And I hear a lot that our leaders didn't step up. And you know what? There's probably an element of truth in that. But how do you know unless you're actually out there? You can only sort of see with your eyes what the leaders are doing. All I noticed was our co-captain, Sam Doherty, laying a crunching tackle late in that third quarter on Marcus Bontempelli when we were still 27 points up, 4:31 remaining. A crunching tackle. Bont could have made Doc look stupid, but he didn't. It's a big holding the ball, big moment, or it seemed like a big moment for us. He did the right thing. He went short to the best kick in our back half, to Saad, who had a bit of space. We wanted to take the game on at that time, in review, do we try and maybe slow down with 4:31 remaining? I don't know. But Saad, penetrating kick right up the guts to Liam Stocker. Beautiful kick. And Stocker, the youngster, turns the ball over, and I don't think he didn't mean to turn the ball over. It just was a poor kick. And we were on. I was level 3 and we were on. We were on in that passage of play, and it was a significant moment in the game. And good teams are able to respond to a little setback like that. But the turnover, and he tried to butter up, but there was a series of shitty little handballs. Ball, I think, got in their hands in the end of Lockie Hunter, who found Josh Bruce, who kicked the goal with 3:12 remaining. And then, we just sort of shit the bed in that last 3 minutes. There was a series of out in the fulls. Even Saad, when he kicked that ball out in the full, could have gone laterally to Jones, who was by himself, to switch the play. And he kicked the ball out in the full on his wrong side of his body. Saad Norton takes a great pack mark. He's been held all day by... So he gets his tail up, and we just knew. So my anxiety levels sort of changed at that stage. It just went to sort of defeat mode, and I just knew that we sort of held on and done so much right, and hadn't really been able to put enough scoreboard pressure on, even though 27 points should be enough, on a midfield that is just A grade, absolutely A grade. And ours is. I'm not saying it's no good, but it's not great. It's not great at all, and it's probably at the lower echelon of the midfields in the competition. And it's a real area of concern for us, and something which I don't think is going to be a quick fix. Definitely not this year. We might see some little improvements in players who come in and show us a little bit, but. We're talking about a midfield that, one, gets enough ball in their hands consistently to supply forwards with enough opportunities and looks to kick a winning score, but more importantly, midfields that are strong enough to protect, a back six. And the Dogs in the end were able to protect their back six. We only in the end had 44 inside 50s, and I spoke about the fact that we needed to keep the Dogs to anywhere between 50 and 55 inside 50s to have a chance in this game and end up having 60. And our midfield group, it's not that they're going out there and not trying. The quality is just not there. It's just not there, and the depth of quality is just not there. And this took me back to a game against the Eagles last year at Optus Stadium, where we took it right up to the Eagles, right up to them, and at that stage they had their A-grade midfield all together and playing well. And I remember it distinctly. They had Nick Nat in the ruck, Luke Shuey, Elliot Yeo, Andrew Gaff, Dominic Sheed, Tim Kelly, and to top it all off, they had Jack Redden running around as well. And I called it the A+ elite midfield up against the C+, or the C grade midfield in ours. I mean, we had Cripper, who was well down on form in that game, Curnow, who's such a warrior, Walsh just in his second season, and then a host of other sort of bits and sort of piece players sort of running through there, not providing a hell of a lot. But we did tremendously well in that game, like this game yesterday, to be 20, I think we were 19 points up in that game at Optus Stadium, in a low-scoring affair where, at that stage, our forward line was really dysfunctional, but we led by 19 points, and then a couple of sort of missed opportunities and a couple of sort of, turnovers. The midfield of the West Coast Eagles just went bang, 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 and they turned a 19-point deficit into a 22-point win. And I remember after the game thinking, I walked away thinking, shit, if we could just improve that area of our game, that just that midfield quality, that we might be okay. We might be okay. And I think for the most part, it just hasn't worked out. It just hasn't worked out. So do you blame the club? I know there's going to be a lot of finger pointing at David Teague and a lot of finger pointing at particular individuals, which is okay. I mean, I'm not in a position to be doing that at the moment, because I don't think the wheels have fallen off this football team, okay? And I'm not comfortable about just being competitive either, okay? We should be at least winning a few of these games. So that's unacceptable as well. But the wheels haven't fallen off. So I'm not in a position at the moment to be fucking spitting the dummy, put it that way. But we were hoping that Cripper would get back to just, I suppose, not necessarily his absolute best, but somewhere near it. And it hasn't been the case. And all the talk over the pre-season was he put a bit of weight back on, and maybe he is carrying injury, but the fact of the matter, he's been just average so far this year. And yesterday he was poor. And I'm not buying into the fact that he spent 7 minutes in the third quarter on the bench as a reason why the Dogs got on top, because that was complete bullshit, because I actually thought we actually played pretty good football when he wasn't on the ground. So I don't see that as a reason why that game got away from us yesterday. Zach Williams, for most part, was never a midfielder at the Giants. So he's expected to come in and suddenly be a prime mover in there. And I didn't actually see him. He played a little bit of midfield time yesterday, but he was forward, midfield. It was a weird sort of game by Zach Williams and where he was actually playing, but he looks a little bit out of shape. And on that performance alone, he can't play next week. He was just very, very ordinary. And then the big one, obviously, is too much is placed on the shoulders of a third-year player in Sam Walsh and the shoulders of a warrior in Ed Curnow, who has his deficiencies, who was marvellous in the second quarter yesterday, but no evolution and progress from a whole host of high draft picks. And I spoke about them before, just haven't come on. Just have not come on. So do we blame the development of the club? I don't know how we blame David Teague on that. It just hasn't come on. So we talk about Setterfield. Where the fuck is he? We talk about Paddy Dow. We talk about Lockie O'Brien. We talk about Matty Kennedy. We talk about what the hell's going on with Sam Petrescu-Seaton. And they're up against Bontempelli, Liberatore, Jackson McRae, Adam Treloar. Okay, no Josh Dunkley, but they can afford to play Bailey Smith, who's in the same year as Sam Walsh on a wing. He didn't have a great game yesterday, but he didn't need to. And we're relying on a third-year player to carry this midfield. And then we get generally excited, and this is where we're just at. We're getting generally excited about David Cunningham and what he's doing in his 6th year of AFL football. And don't get me wrong, this isn't a crack at David Cunningham, because what I've seen in the last 3 weeks has been good. But I would have been hoping to see this from a David Cunningham in his 3rd, 4th year. Okay, because at the end of the day, David Cunningham, he had 9 score involvements yesterday, but he had 12 possessions. 12 possessions. So the weight of numbers was always going to take over in this game. Okay, and you could talk about 4 quarters as much as you like, but the Doggies didn't play 4 quarters yesterday. It's just that the quality of their midfield, okay, was able to do a lot more damage, okay, in the period of time when they had momentum than what the quality of our midfield was able to do. So that, for me, that's the game in a nutshell. I don't know how we fix it. I really don't, because I think, for most part, the effort and the intensity is there. It is there. Okay, and I think throughout Teague's tenure, although there has been huge momentum swings, I think the intensity and effort has been there, but that is a non-negotiable. All that is a non-negotiable. But it's about the core group of the midfield just evolving and getting better and better. And I do think the midfield's got worse. It certainly hasn't got better since last year. Okay, it certainly hasn't got better since last year. From a positive point of view individually, Weeders was just super. He did fuck a few kicks up in that 3rd quarter at important times, but Jesus Christ, he cut him some slack. Absolutely. There's no doubt to me that is possibly the best game I've ever seen him play. He was just super. He really was. I hate talking about individuals because it seems to me that there are quite a few just carrying this football team this season. I thought Eddie, and I've been a critic of Eddie getting him back to the club, but Jesus Christ, and this worries me as well as a 34-year-old that he comes in and he did that yesterday, and I hope for us that he can continue that this year and even possibly have another year in him next year. But there are some nice signs of Durden in the VFL showing a little bit as well, so maybe he can pave the way for him. And I think Owies, I think there's been a few nice little signs from Matthew Owies over the last couple of weeks. He's kicked 5 goals from 2 games. I thought Ed's contribution, particularly in that second quarter, was outstanding. And we're talking about just a warrior of the football club who has his deficiencies, who really, I think, was keeping us in the game in that period of time. I thought he was outstanding. I think, Harry up in the forward line, I just think he looks unstoppable if he's able to get enough supply. And wouldn't it be absolutely unbelievable, like the Dogs, and this is an element of luck in football. It really is. Wouldn't it be beautiful if yesterday at one end of the ground you had, the power of Aaron Norton and Josh Bruce up against the power of Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow up the other end. It just would have been outstanding to see, but that's where we're at in that regard. But how do we fix it? Maybe you've got some ideas how we fix that midfield, guys, because I can't see any quick fix. We're going to probably beat up on, well, not beat up, but we're probably going to beat teams around us in that regard. But when it comes up against the quality, and we're going to face the full force of a quality midfield next week, and we're talking about Clayton Oliver, Christian Petrarca, James Harms, Brayshaw, and then probably the best ruckman. He'll be absolutely fucking seething after being beaten by Tom Hickey on the weekend, Max Gawn. It does not get any easier, but there it is. A disappointing fucking end to a game where I felt so good, and it felt good, but then to have that emotion just flipped like that's what being a Carlton supporter is like at the moment. Catch you soon.